want to introduce John Perez, who will be speaking on their behalf. John?
Thank you so much. As a global leader in healthcare, Johnson & Johnson has a responsibility to respond to this global public health crisis. One of the ways that we do that is through partnering with great organizations. We have a long-standing and ongoing relationship with the Institute for Supply Management and New Jersey ISMs. We're really honored to sponsor today. So like everyone else, really looking forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, John. At this point, I would like to introduce Evelyn Chen. Evelyn is a longtime ISM member and an ISM New Jersey Supplier Diversity Committee member of long term. Evelyn works at Barclays as a VP in tech sourcing. Evelyn?
Thank you, Gladys. So on behalf of ISM New Jersey, I would like to welcome everybody. And I also would like to introduce to you my good friend, Joy Wong, who is today's moderator. Just a little background about Joy. Joy is currently the corporate vice president at New York Life Insurance Company, responsible for its supplier diversity program. Joy began her career with New York Life more than 20 years ago and promoted within the company to various positions with increasing responsibility. Her prior roles included managing New York Life's corporate dining program, strategic sourcing, corporate travel, corporate car program management, and budget and financial analysis. Okay, that's over 20 years of career in like 5 seconds. Joy currently serves on the board of New York and New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council. She previously served on the Financial Services Roundtable for Supplier Diversity as a board member and as membership committee chair. And that's really when Joy and I met each other, and we both co-chair that committee and have since become good friends. Joy volunteers as a corporate member, as a corporate mentor in New York, New Jersey Minority Supplier Development Council and National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce mentorship program. As a avid volunteer, she even takes her husband and 2 children to join her in the year-round volunteer commitments with various religious and non-for-profit organizations. Flowers, photography, food, travel are her other passions. So without further ado, let's welcome Joy.
Thanks, Evelyn. I thought that was a short version. It ended up being a long version. So anyway, ISM New Jersey, Kathy, and the rest of ISM New Jersey Supply Diversity Committee, thank you very much for inviting me to moderate this esteemed panel of diverse-owned businesses. We're in this uncharted territory that is as bad as the situation has been for many, bringing the goodness, cooperation, and innovation from all of us. So I'm looking forward to hearing from our panel of diverse-owned businesses and how they are dealing with the challenge they're facing due to COVID-19. So we have a lot to cover. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel. So I'd like to start with Hallie. So Hallie is the CEO of High Road Press. And Hallie, I'd like you to quickly introduce yourself, please.
So I'll just take a minute here. So my name is Hallie Satz, as Joy said. I am the owner of High Road Press. We're located in New Jersey, in Moonachie. We are a manufacturing facility. We have been open this whole time as essential manufacturing. Mostly what we've been doing right now is printing on the pharmaceutical side, some food, and some other things for construction materials. But we also do quite a bit of other printing in fashion, and those kinds of things have slowed down. Financials, some of that is still going on. And but we've been in business, it'll be 16 years, and I've been in the print side most of my life, and we have just about 50 employees here in New Jersey.
Thanks, Hallie. So next, I'd like to introduce Francisco Cortez. He's the CEO of the Cetra Group. Go ahead, Francisco.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining. I am the CEO of the Cetra Group. The Cetra Group is a strategic marketing firm headquartered in New Jersey with 2 offices here in New Jersey and 1 in New York City. We offer a wide variety of marketing and advertising solutions to the state and federal government. And I also serve as the president of the New Jersey State Veterans Chamber of Commerce.
Thanks, Francisco. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce Venkat Mantha. He's the president of Indotronics Avani Group. Go ahead, Venkat.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, everyone, for inviting us for this panel. Delighted to be here. My name is Venkat Mantha, as Joy just mentioned. Indotronics is a staffing company. It's a fairly large staffing company. We have over 1,200 professionals worldwide, over 850 in the US alone. As you can imagine, given the size of the organization, we cover a lot of skill categories. We do a lot of IT work, engineering work, clinical, scientific, definitely the business professionals, and of course, manufacturing other things. So we do cover a lot of staffing skill categories. We have been delighted to be associated with the veteran hiring program for quite some time because we have actually a secret cleared facility that caters to Department of Defense. And using that, we grew our veteran hiring program. We have now over 100 veterans in our payroll serving various customers. So delighted to be here to share our experiences about this the pandemic. Yeah.
Thank you, Venkat. So with that, we have a lot to cover. I'm going to start with our first question, and maybe let's take the same order that we've done for the introduction. So the question is, how has your business been affected by COVID-19? Hallie?
So there's, I want to say, in all the years of having a business, it's been a tremendous effect. And we've been talking about this the other day. We've really never seen anything like this. But from a basic business point of view of jobs being canceled, postponed, and just from an overall volume of business, of course, we all have been affected in that way. We're all seeing that, and businesses being closed, and just the sheer volume of business going down. Then also the emotional side has been tremendous. So from if it's our clients, our employees, our own families, because it's not just everybody worried about the financial well-being that happened in the recession, but also health and welfare of our families and our friends. So there's a whole emotional side of people going to work or not going to work that everybody's facing every day about their health and family health. So this has been a really stressful time. And I think the heightened stress that we're all feeling has caused just a tremendous amount of anxiety for everybody. So it's really like nothing I've ever lived through, or I think for any of us.
Right. Francisca?
So for the SETRA Group, it has deeply impacted the way we operate. Weeks before the COVID pandemic, we were prone to win multi-million-dollar contracts, and we were on top of the world. We just won a contract a week prior to COVID with the Motor Vehicle Commission of New Jersey, where we were getting focus groups gathered for the Motor Vehicle Commission, and they wanted to better understand how teenagers drove and their driving habits. And the only way we could do that was getting these focus groups and getting them into a facility where a moderator will ask them questions. Of course, because of COVID, we had to cancel the facilities and kind of reconfigure the project. The projects that we were about to win were halted because government, as I stated, our primary resource for revenue and contracts are the state and federal government. And as you know, each agency respectively has had to reprioritize their spending. So where marketing and advertising was something that each agency wanted to do, that was no longer the case. So every contract that we were awarded was halted and new business was completely stopped. So it has deeply affected the way we operate.
Thanks, Francisco. And Venkat?
So we were expecting to be fairly negatively impacted like most industries. But here's the unique thing about the staffing industry, right? So every time there's a crisis, there's also an opportunity. And therefore, actually, we had one of our best sales month in the month of April. And the reason was that when there is a crisis and the normal business activity reduces, we realized that there is some additional activity where people are required. So therefore, when we started looking at the trends, we realized that unemployment claims, for example, shot through the roof. Obviously, there is a need for someone to actually process the unemployment claims. Then we started thinking about it and said, hey, when all the help desk, technical help desk, it has to be moved because of lockdown in other countries, has to be moved back to the US, there's a need for people there. Similarly, then there's temperature scanners, there is contact tracers. So suddenly there's a whole new range of requirements that kept popping up. And we therefore started looking at things differently and said, you know what, let's look at seeing how we can provide solutions of around staffing, of course, bringing people together to solve these problems. So we were able to, while I know in the long term things may be difficult, in the last 2 months, we have been able to actually hire and deploy a lot of people to solve our clients' immediate problems. So we actually, in the month of April, we staffed up over 250 people, over 250 new hires, right? New jobs that we created specifically to address these specific problems that happened as a result of the pandemic. And so therefore, from that standpoint, I think I've always believed staffing is a great industry to be in. We actually were able to take advantage of these spot opportunities and say, hey, if there's a crisis, the flip side is an opportunity, let's go for it. And therefore, we have had so far a very good time. Now, the future, I don't know. Obviously, as things stabilize, I expect things to be pretty slow in the next quarter. But so far, the demand for people has been good, and therefore I think we have been able to cater to the needs of the customers.
Thank you, Venkat. Yes, so as you can see, just with this first question, we have 3 different suppliers providing different things, and the impact of the COVID-19 has been different to many. But at the end of the day, I think we started seeing that when this first happened, where as sad as it is for some, it's creating opportunities also for others. And I think that's something that what the diverse suppliers, the small businesses are good at, right? We find solutions to challenges, to problems, and figure out a way on how to make things work. So with that, I'm going to now go into our next question. And this one, I think I'll let you see who wants to answer it first. What have you or your company done differently with respect to the challenges that's happening, and what is working? Any wins or no new businesses or shifts in production that you've done? So who'd like to go first?
Holly, ladies first.
Okay, all right, I'll take
There
that
you
on.
go.
So I think I'll say over the years where I got like a little smarter in owning the business, because years ago, like when things got down and I would get into my panic mode and be like, okay, doom and gloom, what's going to come out of this? This time I'm trying to have a different, we've lived through really hard times before. So I'm trying to keep a positive attitude and say, okay, let's focus on let's say, things are going to be okay. So let's take the moment and do the things in the company that we really want to get to. Let's do some repairs. Let's upgrade some equipment. Let's spend the money on the areas that we need to get done. So we are doing that. So we did some work in the bindery that we wanted to get done. We did some work on the printing presses we want to get done, some painting. So, on the slower days, we are taking advantage of taking care of some things we want to get done in the plant. We're also cultivating the relationships, the people that we are printing with. We're really working strategically with them and building those relationships. So I want to say we are trying to be really positive and not just focusing on, oh my God, what's going to be, and focusing on the negative. So we're really trying to be positive with it. And I mentioned this, that I just have to, can I just mention about the colds that we talked about on the prep call? So I just think this is worth mentioning. We did notice the other day, and we talked about it at our company meeting, on our 10 feet apart company meeting, which is the way you have to do it nowadays, which is kind of sad. But we did notice how much healthier we all are in the company, which we thought was a really interesting outcome from this whole thing, that we have had even though everyone's very nervous about COVID, we have had like very few sick days, like people being out sick or calling out sick from regular colds because of all the extra hand washing and careful behavior in the company. So it's something that we'll take to the future of how rare people are getting sick in the company on a daily basis, which is an interesting outcome. So wanted to just throw that out there.
If I can jump in, one of the things that we have done at the SetRock Group is we have completely revitalized the way we do business, right? What does that mean? So before COVID, we were so busy managing contracts that we really didn't take the customer experience into consideration. So we're looking at what is our customer onboarding process, right? What is our debrief process? What did you like about working with us? What did you not like working with us? What does our website look like? What does our own marketing look like to the world? So we've really kind of peeled back our own marketing, our own strategic messaging to the world, and looked at our operations. And at the Veteran Chamber, we have an ethos is we will either find a way or make one. And we kind of stick with that across the company where we are going through difficult times, but there is no reason why you should hunker down and not come out of this better or stronger. So we've been more mindful about one, how we really, as a CEO, the one thing you can't get back is your time. And before COVID, I used to meet with so many people, client meetings, and I used to drive to Trenton to meet with X, Y, and Z or to New York City. And by the time I came back, it was 4 o'clock and very little operational work got done. Zoom is my best friend now. I have to say, if I don't need to drive to New York City or to Trenton to meet with you, I'm gonna do just this, is get in front of a computer, kind of do an exploratory call for a client where I'm not spending an entire day. So I'm reevaluating how I assess my time on projects as well. So I've kind of revamped my own company and kind of revitalize how I issue my time towards projects moving forward. So thank you, Zoom.
That's true. So it's finding ways, different ways of, creating time or taking advantage of the time that we never had. So yes, I agree. It seems like without travel, we're busier than ever in this past 9 weeks that I'm working remotely. So, and Venkat?
Yeah. So one of the first things we did was to actually look at our cash flows, right? So for a staffing firm, cash flow is extremely critical. And as soon as we realized the scope of the pandemic, we said we have to make sure that we are cash positive all the time because we anticipated that some customers might lengthen the payment terms or something might happen where cash becomes very important for us. So that's the first thing. The second thing we did, of course, was the lockdown that came pretty suddenly for us. And therefore, we had to quickly we are a recruiting company, so therefore there are lots of teams who sit together, discuss strategies, how to support a customer, how to work on a requirement, how to do a mass project, etc. And suddenly everybody's working from homes, many of them for the first time in their lives. And therefore, the whole approach of ensuring that we continue to effectively service our stakeholders, whether our customers, our consultants, everyone else, right? Make things happen as they go along, but make it absolutely business as usual. That was a big learning lesson for us. And that's something which, of course, like everybody else, we had to do differently. And I'm happy to say we work across 3 countries, and each of the places, the challenges are a little different. But we managed that well. Of course, a lot of over communication, and as Francisco mentioned, we don't use Zoom as much as we use Microsoft Teams, but that's something which we have really adopted extensively in the organization. The third thing is that we continue to make sure, and this is coming out of my experience in the financial crisis, where again, suddenly the things froze and we said, hey, we cannot allow things to freeze. We cannot allow things to sort of start impacting us. As I mentioned last time, in the last question, there will be some opportunities. So pushing the people out to say, hey, let's go out and talk to our customers. One is, of course, talk to new customers and see how this new opportunities, but more important, talk to current customers, right? So cost savings is a big thing. Invariably in situations like this, customers would like to see, because they also want to have a better cash position, they want to see cost savings. So we started looking at saying, hey, before the customers come to us, what can we do proactively, right? We should be ready for that. And so therefore, whether it is trying to figure out where we think there'll be a reduction in billing hours, how do we look at reduction in rates? How do we look at, for example, we do a lot of IT support work for many corporations. How do I bundle them so that we have less number of people doing the same thing? So basically, thinking about business a little differently, but again, ensuring that we are all here so that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We survive, not only survive, in some cases even prosper, but make sure that we are taking care of the basics very well. So I know, Hallie, you mentioned about housekeeping. That's something that happens a lot in our industry, right? Sometimes we are so caught up in transactions, we don't really look at the data at a higher level and say, hey, what is this customer really talking about? Where are we succeeding? Where are we not succeeding? Can we look at the data and then start analyzing it? So this has allowed us to actually pull back and look at where we could improve, go back to the basics. And sometimes there are people who have worked in the industry for several years. We forget the 101s, right? So going back to training. So we revamped on the training part. So I think this sometimes slowing down has its advantages. And I'm not in any way trying to diminish or minimize the effect on society. It has been traumatic. It has been hurtful. Obviously, so many people have passed away. It has hurt us very badly. But we have to make sure that the organization continues, society has to go on, and therefore, how do we cope up with it? So looking at the positives, looking at maintaining, I think we have done a fair amount of both.
Thank you. So as you can see, I mean, again, you started with it crisis creates opportunity, and the opportunity to revisit everything that you're doing, things that you've deferred, going back to housekeeping, things that we didn't make time for. So it's not all bad, and that's why we're here. It's to share tips on how we're all handling these new challenges that we're all facing. So with that, again, this next question will be for all of you. How has this pandemic impacted your planning for the future? Or are there any new ideas that are coming out of all this? I know you already started talking about ideas that you are already doing, but how is this going to change how you handle future business? Who wants to go first?
I'll start quickly. So even though I was a broadcast journalist for 20 years, right? So in comparison to Holly and Venkat, my business is fairly new, right? We're 2 years old. And in 2 years, we've experienced a federal government shutdown and a pandemic. Just 2 years. And my primary target source of revenue is the state and federal government. So I'm like, oh my God, is it going to get any worse? Can it get any worse? If not, I'm prepared, right? Because I've already been to two major things. But one thing that it has taught me is, you know, the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? So where I'm primarily focused on state and federal, I've kind of had to repivot and say, hey, what other sources of revenue can my company retain should we encounter another federal shutdown or another pandemic? So we should start working on getting more retainer business where you're paid monthly for your services, or kind of figuring out market solutions bundles, right, that are less expensive to the market person out there, where instead of offering a website or a video, you offer a package where a rebranding package will cost you a lot less, because we know that we're very mindful that people after this are going to watch every single dollar that they spend. So we're kind of figuring out how to diversify our revenue as a business and not put all of our eggs into one basket. That's what we're doing.
Thank you, Francisca.
You go ahead.
Okay. Picking up the same theme, I think I must say I have been through a couple more. I was here at Intertronics during the internet meltdown in 2000, was it? Well, it's been a long time ago. I was almost at the doorstep of the World Trade Center at 9/11. The financial crisis already mentioned, and so therefore, traditionally we have always had the strategy of saying that we have to have our legs in various buckets, right? We have to basically have our foot in every door. So we have a fair amount of business in the aerospace and defense sector. We work with some of the largest defense contractors. We have a fairly good exposure to the telecom industry. We work with one of the largest telecom companies for over 20 years now. Same with life sciences and medical device firms. Again, we have exposure to the manufacturing sector. We work a lot with the financial services firms, right? So, and of course now with the public sector, the state sector. So having this diversification ensured that when one set of customers did not sort of, have demand for whatever reasons, at least somebody else was considered an essential business, essential industry, and therefore things were happening. But the big thing I think is that we now have to figure out the question of the health of our employees a lot closely. While in the past it was only a question of providing the health insurance, but now we had to go a little deeper to say, hey, how do we ensure that not only are employees safe, but also they are safe in the surroundings? And so therefore the conversation with customers are getting a little deeper there. And I already mentioned to you this whole thing of working remotely, working from home, different countries. How do we do it? Ensuring that still providing service. It's been a learning. And I must say that I think while we are a lot better than what we were 2 months ago, there is still miles to go. And so I don't think we will go back ever to the situation of having a complete everyone back to our offices, sitting across the table, discussing close by. I mean, I think that might take some time to come back to that normal. So we have to live and work with this new environment. But most importantly, every single crisis has forced, I think, everybody in the supply chain, from customers right down to the suppliers everywhere, to examine every single cost element and say, how can we do more for less? I have been in this industry now for 21 years. Every time there's a crisis, some people left the industry, but more importantly, costs came down. We were able to deliver more for a lower price, or deliver sort of, in a way, provide more cost savings. I'm sure that's what is going to happen, right? So this is where we think this will be an opportunity for some people to revamp their business models and to do better. And as I mentioned, when we were thinking of temperature scans and telling our customers that, hey, suddenly you will need people to monitor all this, our customers came back and said, yeah, but can you think a little beyond just the people? And so quickly we had to put on our hats to say, how can we help them look at the number of people requirements? How do they have personal protection equipment? How do they have uniforms? So for a staffing company to think beyond all these steps and go beyond it, I thought that was something which required a little bit more of micro innovation from that point of view. Nothing very strategic, but basically providing more of a solution. And I think those things will continue to happen. So we will be continues to be challenged, but I think this industry is going to be robust, and we'll come back to things in a good way. I'm sure about that. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So the innovation, the ways of responding to these challenges is what's keeping the businesses. Oh, did we lose Hallie? Excuse me. It looks like we lost Hallie. But so the ways of doing this business is making diverse owned small businesses like yours be innovative and finding ways of really making use of the current situation. Making lemonades out of lemon, right? This is a challenge that we're in. So you talked about the things that you are doing within your companies. The next question that we want to ask you is there something, what are the things that you think corporations can do to help you go through this difficult time? What resources are there, or what can corporations do to help you? I think in the audience we have 50-50, 50% of the attendees are corporations, and the other half are business owners. So maybe Francisco, can you start? And
Sure, of course.
you like
Absolutely. I think so. I think we touched upon this on the prep call where as president of the Veteran Chamber, we deal with hundreds of veteran businesses. So we get calls about, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. And one of the things that came on most often was time, right? A lot of these diverse suppliers and corporations, they'll hold matchmaking sessions where the supplier or the business owner will go and attend, they'll meet with suppliers and pitch, but often nothing really elevates to an opportunity after spending a day. And there could be several reasons, right? But you had, Joy, you had an excellent point where the business owner normally would take time to develop a relationship with that supplier and follow up with their capability statement and say, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at, and hope that it leads to an opportunity. However, COVID has really changed. Most businesses don't have the time to build that relationship that we had before, where it would take a year for us to kind of, you know, send each other emails and meet up at 3 conferences before a contract was made. Now businesses are short of funding, short of time, short of opportunity. So I suggested that matchmakers really be strategic and do their diligence and kind of say, hey, we have a marketing firm coming. These are our marketing projects. Are they a good fit for them? And if so, let's meet with them versus the hello, tell me who you are, send us your capability statement and improve your information. So I guess be more strategic with the supplier diversity conferences so that they're beneficial for both the business that's attending and the supplier offering opportunity is my advice.
By the way, I lost everybody before. Can you hear me now?
We'll come back.
I know. I had to like go back and rejoin everything. So I just want to make sure. So I'm assuming we're to the next question, right?
Yeah, so basically,
Okay.
I was asking about what can corporations do for
Okay. All right,
businesses
good.
like yours?
Okay. So one thing that I had been thinking about this for a while. I do think, that they need to focus on making sure small businesses survive and thrive. And I know we're all in the diversity world, and everybody that's on this call is either a small business or a diversity professional or small business professional. And it's really important that they go back to their corporate management and we stay in front of corporate people and stay on their minds, because, there's a big fear of, it's just like right now we hear on the news all the time, and everybody's going into, Walmart and Target, but the small Main Street store, clothing store isn't operating. When you just think about that, it's scary, right? I mean, it's that whole idea of that small business not operating. So I think it's just really important that that stays on the mind of everybody. But I do want to mention, I do know, like for my own self, I went to, when everybody was applying for the PPP loans, for example, I have my main bank, but I went to one of my clients and went and said to one of our financial institution clients, to a diversity professional, and said, hey, is there something you can do to help? So I know the diversity people out there really want to work with us and help us. And, we are so lucky to have all you guys out there, and we really appreciate it. I know all of us that are on the calls and go on these webinars. So you're out there for us. Thank you. It means a lot. Just hope keep it up. Just don't go away.
We're here to stay.
We need you.
Echoing what Hallie and Francisco mentioned, there is always, during a crisis, there is a flight to safety. And I have seen, again, I don't want to keep harking back to this, but whenever there is some tough times, corporations prefer to deal with large companies, large suppliers. And I have always seen that many of the disruptors are the smaller, diverse firms. We are hungrier. We need to be there. So we often innovate a lot in order to survive, in order to demonstrate value. And so therefore, I think I would love to tell our corporations, continue to have faith in us. We are financially strong. Maybe we are not as large as some of the ultra large staffing firms, but we have done it. We are nimble. We have demonstrated value. We are giving you cost savings. We actually are in the business of ensuring that you have a diverse pool of talent coming in through the door, and that is going to eventually make you stronger. So please have faith in us and continue to make sure that in your mix of suppliers, you of course have your big, very large vendors, but in addition to that, have the mix so that you are able to constantly enable competition as well, right? Competition is always the best to get the best value. So I would think that's what is one message I would love to have to give to all the corporations. Have faith in us. We are far financially stronger than what you think, what people might think we are. And so therefore, that's something which we would love to make. And of course, please don't lengthen payment terms too much. I mean, it does have an impact, but nevertheless, that also is something which we can work with. So, yeah.
I just want to like throw in there, just so I don't forget to add this. When this first happened, this whole pandemic, a couple of the large pharmaceutical companies that we were dealing with came back to us because we were getting some work from them, had to be done very quickly. It was all very crucial. And they came back and said that they could not believe how easy it was to get this printed out quickly. We're so low layered. And that's the one thing. And they were saying, in the really big printers out there, some of the really large companies were having some health issues and problems, or they had just so much printing they were doing that they couldn't get it out in time. So sometimes, there is something to say about working with these smaller businesses, because, for us, it was like, we're running 2 shifts round the clock, no problem.
Yeah, and we take the same example, Hallie. When states started seeing the hundreds and thousands of unemployment claims, their first inclination was, hey, we need to go to a large staffing firm because they can only help us bring up so many people. But then, for some reason, they tried out some diverse firms, and we all succeeded. We literally onboarded 250 people in less than 10 days, right? From the start of requisition to having them actually working the phones and doing the work was less than 10 days, and that's 250 people. So I think truly there is a lot of possibilities. But I like to have one more point here, and that is, as people have, I think even within corporations, work got disrupted a little bit. One thing which may have got dropped out of the supplier review calls, and I would love to see corporations continue to engage with all the suppliers, trying to somehow find time to make sure, even if it's not a one-on-one call, have a call with a bunch of suppliers, right? Communicate, keep the communication links on. I think it is a two-way traffic. We do have a lot of market intelligence, which we can push back and provide to you as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a lot to share. I was taking a lot of notes, but I'll start with the last point that Venkat said. So, fortunately for me, with supplier diversity, I got very busy, and I'm leveraging a lot of opportunities that's happening for supplier diversity, and using this time to sort of introduce suppliers that we already have started relationship with for introduction to the company. And what I'm doing is I'm continuing to remind my procurement folks that, like, hey, I have a vendor to introduce before, and I'd like to reintroduce to you again. So what I would share with all the suppliers right now, I think whether your business has gone slow or it's gone very busy, this is a good time. This is not the time for prospecting. This is the time to revisit and reconnect with your current relationship. Remind them, because sometimes maybe the opportunities weren't there the first time you met or a few years ago, but maybe it's creating opportunities now, and this is the time to say, hey, remember me, this is what we do. Just use that. even if they don't have time now, the procurement folks that you're contacting because they buried with immediate projects that's coming up, use this opportunity to reconnect, build those relationships, and don't be afraid, I think, to ask corporations. Like, I'm hearing more and more peers and more corporations talk about, trying to do something about the net payment terms. If your clients right now is not talking about that, maybe just reach out to your contact within the company, and if you need help with adjusting the net payment terms, if it's not already being addressed, suggest it, because maybe it's on their to-do list and you just need to sort of help push it forward. Like, hey, Joy, when you are my corporate contact, can you help me figure out how to reach out to your accounts payable and or procurement, and how to address the net payment terms? Also, I think right now, what I'm doing is I'm attending a lot of webinars, and I'm hoping that many of you in this that are calling are doing this regularly, because there's a lot of resources and tips to hear from corporations, from business owners on what they're doing. And I think this is the time to collect that information and apply what applies to your company. In terms of taking advantage of the situation, Venkat, you talked about it, that small businesses are strong. And I believe that, like, you don't have to be as large as the other Fortune 100 companies to compete. There are sometimes unique services that you can provide that you can compete with them. And especially now, I think, Hallie, you talked about you being able to react and print quickly. I think more and more, because of this global pandemic, it has emphasized the importance of local business. We have to get our resources locally. If you can't fly or anything like that, you want to stay local. And I think this is where you can leverage that. And that's what I would say to all the small business owners. I want to touch on the matchmaker sessions that Francisco has mentioned. While maybe I know that many corporations are starting to revisit matchmaker sessions, and I always reminded suppliers that I think for corporations and suppliers alike, we need to be smart about how we spend our time, right? Definitely not. This is not the time to start a new business or new prospects. This is the time to just emphasize, revisit the matchmakers you've done before, and remind the corporation that you've spoken with and what you do. But because I think you just have to be forthcoming, and I know, at least for me, I'm very transparent with the suppliers that I meet, new and current ones that I've been dealing with. I always tell them, like, look, I'm here at this matchmaker. I have no specific project for you. There's no specific RFP happening related to what you're offering, but I'm just collecting information. And your job as a business owner is to really educate me as much as possible. So when the opportunity comes, I can talk about you very easily. And I don't need to look for your business card. I can right away say, oh, I know what this company does, and here, invite them to this opportunity. Okay, I lost my train of thought there, but basically I think you have to be selective about the meetings that you're having, because we don't have infinite times, all of us, corporations and business alike. And let me see.
Hey, Joy, if I can ask one question.
Sure,
As a
Francisco.
business owner, what do you feel is an appropriate amount of times for a business to reach out and follow up? Is it once a month? Do you want a biweekly follow-up? What is okay, or in your eyes, not seen as a bother or over communicating?
Okay, that's a good question. So the answer there is it varies. So I always recommend during matchmakers, you should always ask your contact, like, because I've heard peers who like to be followed up right away. And then there are some like me, who I would say, it'll take me a couple of weeks to catch up with my email, follow up with me after 2 weeks. And then if, let's say, that's just the initial contact, I would then tell them, okay, Francisco, whenever you have new business, new success that you want to share, or awards that you receive, I think anytime you have that, reach out to the supplier, because rather to the corporations, because I can tell you, for me, I may not be able to respond to every single email, but I'm tracking who's reaching out. So, and sometimes it's timing. You may have reached out maybe a month ago and didn't get a response, but it may be timing. That second time you follow up after a month, you're elevated, you're the first email there, you may actually get an instant response. So it varies. I would always say ask your contact to see what's what's the appropriate amount of follow-up. I think every 2 weeks could be often, especially if there's no opportunity. If let's say there's no opportunity, I tell people at least every 6 months, just touch base. Even if you don't hear from me, I'm watching that. And the more I see you and the more I get to know you, it'll get easier. And when the opportunity comes, I don't need to look for your email. I'll remember, like, yes, Francisco has been following up with me and this is what they do. And so I
Very
think
good.
that's a long answer, but there's no specific answer. You're going to have to ask your corporate contact.
But that's a good range. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So with that, we have more questions. I'm going to go fast now. So I'll ask this to Francisco, and I think we have a few more minutes. So Francisco, please answer, but Hallie and Venkat, if you want to chime in, please do. So during this stressful time, what are you doing to maintain your mental well-being? And how do you help your employees with maintaining theirs as well? I know some of you already talked about this before.
So, I mean, we know that these are very stressful times. Anxiety levels are up, stress levels are up. You know, am I going to be able to pay my employees? Am I going to meet payroll? Is my business going to survive? Those are all real life things that can keep you up at night. So it is critical. So on my behalf, you know, I wear several hats. I'm a business owner. I'm a veteran chamber president. 2 days ago, I was appointed by Governor Murphy to the Restart and Recovery Council to reopen businesses in the state. So that's a lot of pressure. I'm not good at any of those roles, but mentally and physically, I'm not centered. So I meditate twice a day. I start with prayer meditation in the morning, followed by mindfulness meditation shortly after. And then if you notice my beautiful Peloton behind me, that gets a lot of views. So mentally and physically, I try to do things that help me deter from what I am doing, because you need to be, it could be you don't like riding the Peloton, or you're not into meditation. Go for a walk, right? Play with your child, go play catch in the back for an hour, do something that brings you joy, color, call someone that makes you laugh, do something that makes you smile during these times, because you're only as good as your mind, body, and soul put out to the world. So meditation and something that brings you joy are highly recommended during these stressful times.
Thank you. Hallie, Venkat?
Yeah, so I'm going to say for myself, I probably really need to work on that. And I know that, and everybody tells me that, because I'm not good at that typical, you know, wife, mom, kind of like need to work on that. But I will say with the employees, I really do try to come up with things. And so we do a couple of things, but we've done things like bonus days off paid by the company. I've been trying to work on, and I call them mental health days, we've kind of tried to rotate it and tried to give everybody a bonus day here and there. Some lunch things. We do a thing every morning where we do go around and we ask every individual gets asked how they're feeling. And we do get a little intrusive since COVID had started. So about, you know, their families and what they did over the weekend. And so it's part of, you know, the caring, sharing. And we've always done a thing like with birthdays, everybody's birthday gets recognized here. Everybody in the company, it's always been that way, with a gift card and cake on milestones. And we're still doing that with COVID. They did something actually last week with mine with little individual hostess cupcakes, which by the way, tasted a little odd, but they were individually wrapped, but it was really cute. But I try to do something always here with the employees for stress in the company, but we, need to work on that a little bit on myself. But I told Francisco, I'm gonna call him separately and get some coaching.
Listen, we can do virtual meditation.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some coaching. And I might get that Peloton one day.
Just 2 points to add to that. One of the things that we do is when we have our regular sales meetings or internal meetings, review meetings, we always try and put the positive news up front first. And I think one of the things we have seen is that whenever there are reassuring words among various, and I'm blessed to have a fantastic team. I mean, most of my team members, in fact, all of them are very positive. So even when things are going tight, they are always looking to say, hey, you know what, we have survived this, we have done better. So the constant words of reassurance really works, I think, a lot. At least in our organization, it works a lot. The other thing I noticed is that when we were talking to many of our co-CEOs, CEOs or business owners of other staffing firms, many of whom also, like ours, have a footprint in various countries, many of them actually immediately recognize the need to maintain cash flow. And so they followed a lot of people. They sort of immediately took a lot of things to conserve cash in that manner. We took the opposite approach. We said, no, you know what? We want to make sure that we told everyone up front that we do not want to furlough anyone. We had, for whatever reason, ramped up tremendously in Q4 in anticipation of a fantastic 2020. I guess we are not a minority here. A lot of staffing firms did it. But we have gone ahead and retained every single one of them. So we said, okay, we will not pay commissions and incentives to people, but all the base salaries we will pay, we will make sure we will not. That was a very reassuring kind of a statement. And our CEO has actually gone out and done short video clips, sent it out to all the employees, mentioned to them that, hey, you know what, we are doing well. Don't worry about your job. We will come out of this. In the middle of all this pandemic, one of our offshore centers, there was a gas leak from a chemical factory close by. And that added to the whole problem. Again, there, the senior leadership in the local, in India, they stood up and said, hey, you know what, here we are supporting them, etc. So I think the constant messaging, the positive messaging in my eye works a lot. It reassures people that, you know what, we are every single day that we have done well, we are here for another day. So I think that's the single thing that we have done.
Thank you. So we have 5 minutes left, but I just want to let you know, because I think there's a lot of questions or there's a lot of chat messages right now. So we are not going to stop exactly at 3 o'clock. So for those who want to stay behind and stay to continue on the Q&A, we'll try to address at least some of the questions that are being asked here. So with that, I just want to share very quickly that for my company, we actually have what's called Brave of Heart Fund. And I don't know if Kathy has shared it yet. But basically, this is a partnership between the New York Life and Cigna Foundations. And it's dedicated to providing healthcare workers and their families with some kind of assistance. So the fund is designed to provide financial support in the form of charitable relief grants to support families of healthcare workers who lose their lives to COVID-19. So how does this impact the audience right now? So this is applicable to everyone. If you have a know of a healthcare worker, and they don't need to be nurses or medical professionals, they could be custodians or any kind of folks that's working in the healthcare industry, in the hospitals. If they lost their lives, the family can actually try to apply for relief grants. And please share the links there, you can check it out. And so that's one opportunity to help individuals affected by death related to COVID. The other piece is, if you're looking to donate, right now, I think 25 million for the 25 million foundation anything donated by individuals will be matched up to $25 million. So you can double your donations to this relief fund. So just want to share that. If you can please check out the website, braveofheartfund.com. And Kathy, if you've shared already, please do take advantage of that. So either you have a need for it, or if you want to double the value of your donation. So with that, we have one question already that was sent actually before this event started. So for all of the news that the government is supposed to be helping businesses during this time, have any of you actually have been able to receive funds from the government PPP legislation? So any one of you who'd like to take this question?
So we've applied for, you know, when this all came out, we didn't know how long it would last, a lot of uncertainty. So we applied for everything that was made available, the SBA EIDL loan, the PPP loan, and we thankfully were approved for both. So thankfully that gave us, you know, some breathing room. Working with a lot of the chamber members though, the veteran community lets us, or has told us that not many have gotten approval yet. So it's a struggle, but we have seen some success with the programs.
So any tips on how, since you've been successful in doing this, any tips for those who haven't really done any work yet?
So two quick things. The Veteran Chamber of New Jersey is working with New Jersey EDA, and all of the vice presidents in the Veteran Chamber are acting as counselors. So if you need assistance on how to apply for PPP or what the application process looks like, reach out to us and we'll assign an actual counselor to walk you through the steps. So you can go to New Jersey Veterans Chamber on Google, and there's an email there that you can reach out to us, and we'll be happy to try and help you through the process.
Thank you, Francisco. Venkat, Hallie, do you have any experience or have heard other companies what they're doing?
I believe a lot of them have applied for the PPP. I don't know if anyone have actually received the funds, but I do know that many of them feel that once the approval process is happening, they will get the funds. So it seems to be pretty positive, and things seem to be working. But I haven't actually come across anyone who have said, yes, I've got the check. So,
Well,
it's in the process. Yeah.
We applied, and I will have to say I was like super tenacious. The minute I heard about it, I spent hours researching it. So I did go on the first wave. I was in the last hour of approval on the first wave. I was crazy tenacious, reading everything there was. I was actually feeding the information to my accountant and to our payroll company. I was determined to get this thing. And I went to 3 different banks, and I was reading to all kinds of, on blogs from other business leaders that were saying, I filled it out, I got rejected. So I was in this whole panic mode because I really needed it. I was really concerned about not getting it. I think this next wave though is so much easier. So I think you didn't get it the first time, because now I was getting all these people coming back to me saying, if you didn't get it, please apply, please apply, please apply. So I really feel like there is money out there in the second wave. So I feel, I didn't know there would be a second wave. Of course, none of us did. But it does seem to be that, that you could get it if you apply. There, all the banks that I approached the first time around came back to me and said, please apply. But I had been approved in the last hour.
That's
So
good.
we were approved, but it's 8 weeks. So you kind of say, it's a lot of record keeping. You got to be really careful, with what you've stated, and that you can really, prove that you really needed it. And we did, but we had very valid reasons of why we would need it. But it's 8 weeks. It's not going to solve the problems. So we'll see.
Thank you. So I know a lot of companies are putting in resources. I think even New York, New Jersey, MSDC, and all the other advocacy organizations are posting resources. So please check those out. So Evelyn, do you know which question, do you have questions that you want us to ask, Elevate for now?
So at this time, yeah, we will officially transition into the Q&A session. And I did see one question that came in early on when Hallie was talking about the entire time your company was you're still working, you're still operating. And the question is, what specific steps have you taken in your facility to ensure worker safety?
Okay, so I was really proactive very early on. We heard about the virus in late February, and we started right away. We started doing things when we were just kind of hearing it was out there, and we started doing all these sanitation. This is prior to masks, but what can we do? We started having company meetings and saying, and actually even then started saying, started doing a protocol every morning. How are you feeling? How's everybody feeling? And if you had a temperature, please stay home. If you don't feel good, if you have a cold, but doing things where we were spraying all the time. So, and then I think what we did, I want to say we did right, and I don't want to jinx our company, but is being really fluid with changing things. So it started with sanitation. Everybody walks in the door and washes your hands. And every morning we were spraying all the doorknobs with, sanitation spray, and Purell was everywhere. Then 2 weeks later, it was every 2 hours. And then a month later, it was, 6 feet apart, 8 feet apart. And the few weeks after that, it was the masks. You know what I mean? So we were very fluid in changing things. And then we started building some plastic protection we're a fairly large plant. The plant is 40,000 square feet here. We only have 48 employees, so we have a lot of space. But in any areas where there's not that many areas where they're that close together, but we started building our own plastic barriers. So we did have barriers if we needed them. So I want to say we're, been pretty proactive in all our whole sanitation things. And we just keep doing that as we do it. The temperature taking, we do have the thermometer. It has not been really accurate. We haven't been able to get like the really great one. We've been trying to order one. They're not available. The great thing that you like shoot and you get somebody. We did get like the forehead. It's very inaccurate. So we have to rely on people just not coming to work if they think they have a fever. That's been our one thing that we don't have yet.
That's great.
Maya, just a quick comment on the PPP. My colleagues are mentioning to me that a fair number of companies in the TechServe Alliance have received the PPP funds. So
that's great.
Just putting out there that my colleagues who are part of various staffing alliance groups, and they are mentioning to me on the side that people have got it. So yeah,
great.
Yeah, good.
That's great. Thank you both for sharing with us. At this time, I don't know if anyone online has any questions. If you do, feel free to submit your questions through the webinar chat. And while we are just waiting to see if there's any additional questions, just want to share with you a couple comments that we did receive during the session. So one, I know Janine has mentioned that, we just need to, that we want to let the small business owners know that if any time you feel that the payments are slow from the corporate, make sure you reach out to your contact, because a lot of time, even though your contacts are not in the accounting department, but then they could be the one that go out to help you figure out where the payment is. So again, going back to the point where we talk about reconnecting with your contact, and just reach out to your corporate contact, and hopefully they will be able to help you find out where the issue is. And there is another comment about, yes, I think all of us are here today because we all have the passion. We want to make sure that we bring things back to our local community, and we will continue to do that. And I think you all will be, very supportive of that. So that's, continue working on that. I don't see any additional questions at this time, but it's been a great session, and really on behalf of ISM New Jersey, I just want to thank all our panelists, Francisco, Hallie, Venkat, for sharing with us your perspective as diverse business owners, and also things that you've done during this time to manage, the business. And also I want to thank, Joy for being the moderator today and share with us the corporate perspective, a lot of good information, the link about the New York Life and Cigna Foundation and all that. Thank you so much for those additional resources. Also, I want to thank all of the participants that have taken the time to join us in today's session. I hope everyone has enjoyed this, educational webinar, and hopefully you find it insightful. And as ISM New Jersey continues to host these webinars 2 to 3 times a week, we really hope that you will continue to support us and join us in the next few web sessions. So for a complete listing of all the scheduled webinars, it's on the website. So please go and check it out and sign up to join us. Just to close this, I would like to leave you with this quote by Eleanor Roosevelt. With a new day comes new strength and new thoughts. And boy, isn't this what we all are hearing today? And we see all these new ideas, innovative ideas, energy, and strategy that's coming out of this pandemic, as unfortunate as it is, but there are new energy, new ideas coming out of it. So with that, please continue to stay safe and healthy, everyone. So we will see you in our next session. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.